Hello, my name is Kindson, the application developer and the database administrator, and here I'm going to explain everything you need to know concerning backup and recovery as it concerns database systems, be it SQL, be it any scenario. But precisely in this video, I'm going to focus on Microsoft SQL Server 2008 Release 2. Although the principles I'm going to define here actually will apply to any system you are using, be it Oracle or whatever other database systems you are using for development. So, what is involved in backup and recovery? For sure, if you are working on an application, whether you're a developer, whether you are an analyst, whether you're a database administrator, at some point in your career, you must consider backup and recovery. More especially for we developers, we consider backup and recovery of our data because every application at some point in time have to access data and also store data. So for you to be able to have this data back in the event of data loss, be it maybe some kind of technical failure, be it physical failure of your server, you should be able to get back this data and provide it for the user to have access to. So that is what I'm going to discuss. So now I'll specifically look at two areas of backup, but think of what I'm saying as best practices in terms of backup, database backup and recovery, because everybody does backup now and then, but what are the best strategies in terms of backup? I'll give you 4 different points for you to consider when you want to choose the best backup and recovery scenario. Before I outline these 4 points, I would like to highlight that the two backup strategies, or let's say the two backup aspects, they have the full backup or the backup types, the full backup and the differential backup. I quickly make an explanation of these two terms. The full backup refers to a backup of the whole database as it is at that point in time. Everything is being backed up. That gives you a full backup. Then we have the differential backup. Is a backup of the database of the files that have changed from the last backup that was made, from the last full backup that was made. The backup of the changes in the database from the last backup, full backup, to the point of the backup is referred to as differential backup. So a full backup backs up everything at that point in time, but a differential backup backs up the changes, only the changes from the last backup to the current time. So that is why we have full backup and differential backup. So how do you choose the best backup strategy for your database? Now I'm going to give 4 points for you to consider. First, you want to consider the size of the database you are backing up. If the database have a larger size, it affects your backups. The strategy is also, if it's also a very small database, it also defines your backup strategy to choose. Now, if you are dealing with a very large database being accessed by users in different locations, a database that are running to gigabytes, of course, you will not consider backing up at very frequent intervals, considering the overhead of data transfer between the database location and the backup location. So you want to choose a backup scenario that backs up the database maybe at a time when the workloads on the servers or on the bandwidth is low. It means that if you have this kind of database that is in gigabytes, you may choose to perform full backup every night, and then during the day you take differential backups maybe at 1 hour intervals. So that is the consideration for when a database is large. But when you have a very small database, you may also consider taking backup every midnight, maybe every midday, twice a day, and then every 10 minutes or thereabout you take differential backup. And now this is also affected by other factors. Let's look at the next factor, that is criticality of the data. Now the backup scenario you choose or backup strategy you choose also gives consideration to how critical the data in the database is. So if you are working with very sensitive data, for instance financial information, payroll data, you have to choose a very robust backup strategy. But take note that in this particular case, when you deal with very critical and sensitive data, I'll recommend backing up in 2 different locations or even more. And now the first factor I explained applies, the size of the database. But this time, the criticality of the database, the more critical the database, the more frequent backups need to be taken. So at this point, you may have to reduce the interval of differential backup. And if you perform a backup every night, a nightly backup, you also consider backing up the database at intervals, at short intervals. That is taking differential backups at short intervals. It may even be as short as 5 minutes differential backup or so. In this way, if you afford to lose data that have been entered in the next 5 minutes, 5 minutes ago, then that will be your consideration. So you want to check how much data can you afford to lose in case of failure of your database. So that is the window of differential backup that you have to choose. Now you also want to consider the location of your backup. Of course, I'll say at this point, don't choose a backup scenario that backs up your data in the same physical server, even if it's in different disk. Don't choose a backup location to be in the same physical server as a primary database. Choose a backup location to be at a different location, possibly a different building in a different metropolis, a different data center, away from the location of your primary database. That is very important, because if something happens, the data center burns down or the location burns down, and the database is in that location, even if it's spread in different servers, you are going to face a very serious problem. So now the location of a backup, your backup location, how does it affect your backup strategy? Now, the farther the location, the more you have to consider the backup intervals you choose. So what it means is that if you have a backup here in Lagos, Nigeria, and you have your primary server, your production server here in Lagos, Nigeria, and you have a different server in Houston. Now you have very long distance, so you may consider backing up at a bigger intervals. Maybe you take full backup every day. In every scenario, I'm always saying taking full backups in not less than 1 day, or not more than 1 day. If you take twice a day or once per day. Then, now considering the location, you have 2 different locations of very long distance. You want to think of a backup scenario that will not also affect the bandwidth so much. that will not take a long time to complete. And then the longer time it takes a backup takes to complete, the more you are uh, aim to face problem of unsuccessful backup. So in such times, you want to choose backup scenarios that you may consider increasing the interval of your differential backup. But the backup has to be daily. The full backup has to be taken daily. Now the last point is the frequency of transactions in your database. Now, if you have a database where uh, a database that has so much transaction traffic every minute, users all over the place, different locations are inserting, updating, deleting data in this database every minute that passes. Now I'll say uh, back up your database, possibly take full backup every day and night, and then take differential backup every 2 minutes or thereabout. But this time, of course, there are other scenarios I may have to consider, other technologies that helps you to get back your database in times of failure. We'll consider mirroring and log shipping in a different level, but I hope you understand the points I've discussed so far. You want to take note that there is full backup that backs up your database, everything as it is. And have differential backup that backs up your database from the point of the last full backup to the current time. Now, some may have come across the term like incremental backup. Incremental backup is simply a backup that is not full backup. A backup that backs up the database from the last point of backup, be it full backup or differential backup, but backing up changes from the last backup point to the current point is incremental. If you take another incremental backup, maybe from the point to the last incremental backup is incremental. So backup strategy or backup type that backs up changes from the last backup point is incremental. But I define differential backup as a backup that backs up changes to the database from the last full backup that was taken. So I hope this video has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing. Please like my video if it's been useful to you. Also subscribe to my channel for updates, and I'd like to see you in the next video.